Hi guys, and welcome to another video about Head Bob in Kingdom Come Deliverance. Yes, I've already made 2 videos about this and I'm making a third. It's a trilogy. I'm even thinking about doing a prequel trilogy and maybe the odd spin-off. I am sorry for this, but I've got news, okay? I've got news. After the second video on this subject, and I still can't believe I'm saying that, after the second ramble on this, I ran around and tested a little more without the mod to see if I could get used to the head bob. And to try and keep this as short as possible, the answer is no. It just kept getting worse until I was so uncomfortable I had to stop playing, and I actually felt bad even when I woke up this morning. I didn't, it's not like I had a headache or, I tell you what it felt like. It felt like I had a hangover, but not a bad one. You know when you've drunk a little too much, a few beers, but not enough to feel like you need to rush the toilet or anything, but like your brain's a bit fuzzy. You know, you feel like you've got cotton wool in your head. It was like that, and I was like that pretty much for the whole day. So this with the vanilla head bob is actually worse for me than virtual reality. I've gotten kind of used to virtual reality. It probably would take about 2 hours of virtual reality to make me feel as bad as I felt after, say, an hour of this, which tells you how bad this is for me. So I really was thinking to myself, well, I don't want to play with the head bob, and the head bob mod was a little problematic because of the no shadow and the lack of animation. And so I started to think, you know what, this is probably not going to work for a Let's Play, and I even started installing another game. I'm not going to discuss that too much here, and started considering that as an alternative because, well, my thinking was, I do want to play this game. I really do want to play this game, but it just had too many problems. Maybe the Warhorse Studios would release a patch fixing this issue. I say fixing this issue like it was a bug, or adding the option to turn it off or reduce the head bob. And, you know, I do know they've had a lot of people request it, but it's been a request for a long time and they've shown no sign of adding it yet. But hey, they've added a lot of new things, including a new difficulty mode. I said last time I something about I have to choose what difficulty to play at, and a few people said it's only got one difficulty. It's hardcore. Well, it doesn't. It has normal difficulty and it has hardcore difficulty. And hardcore is actually the new one and looks really interesting. It looks really interesting. I was actually thinking to myself I might do a playthrough on hardcore, although that's probably stupid because it'd be my first playthrough. But when has that ever stopped me, eh? When some of the negative traits look hilarious. I really fancy the idea of being a sleepwalker. Anyway, back to business, trying to keep this short and to the point. I was hoping maybe they would update it and I'd be able to play then. However, I received a message from the mod author of Disable Head Bob, and he wasn't actually that mad with me. In fact, he's made a few new versions, and I've been trying them out, and they're pretty good. Can you hear the footsteps? It's got footsteps. I got a body. I've got a shadow. But can you see that the head bobbing is not that bad? It's still there. It's still a little more than Skyrim. But it's not that bad. Now this is the 60% version. That is, the head bob is 60% as much. Now, it's not in size. Believe it or not, he's not changed the size of the head bob. He has reduced the speed of the head bob. So it's as large, but it's slower. And I think it's a lot better. It's a lot more comfortable, even when strafing sideways, looking around. I'm looking around pretty smoothly because I'm using a controller. Oh, I figured out how to get the inverted controller working. It was right in front of my face the entire time. And I have a feeling that might have contributed a little bit to my nausea. One of the things people don't realise about motion sickness is it's often because the brain sees movement that it doesn't feel, or feels movement that it doesn't see. But occasionally it can also occur if it's expecting movement and the opposite happens. And for example, when I use a control or a mouse, when I push the thumbstick forward, or move the mouse forward, I'm used to looking down. When I pull the thumbstick back, or pull the mouse back, I'm used to looking up. That's what I'm used to. Obviously, without the inverted control, it was doing the opposite. My brain may have been getting a little confused, and while moving around, looking up and down, that will have actually helped the nausea. Oh, I've also reduced the settings to high instead of like a mixture of very high and ultra, because frame rate can be a cause of motion sickness. So I'm going to eliminate those from the equation while testing. But so far, this is not bad. I don't know how good it would be long term, and I'm not really willing to test it in the moment because, like I said, I'm still feeling a little delicate from yesterday. So this might be something I need to wait a while and then test, but I think this looks hopeful. There are actual versions for all the way down to 10%. That would make the speed of the head bob 10% the vanilla. And you can go all the way to 90%. So you can pick which version you want. However, before you rush off and use the 10% version, there are still downsides to this, I'm afraid. It's not perfect. It is bloody brilliant compared to vanilla, but it's not perfect. I can see my body. I can see the shadow. It moves, and I've got footsteps. However, I've deliberately not been looking at the shadow that much because I don't know if you notice, I look pretty chilled out, don't I? I'm just sort of really slow jogging. That's because the animation is 60% speed of the proper animation. And when looking at the floor, you can see... Now, you can jog at this rate, but you generally have a lot longer strides if you're doing that. If you want to jog at a reasonable speed and have this sort of pace rate, your stride is actually usually a lot larger and it looks more energetic. So there is a disconnect there. The worst thing though is the foot. It's hard to hear sometimes. There are better, but I am actually getting a little nauseous doing this. It could be because I'm running around looking at the floor while moving, not necessarily the head bob. I think the footsteps are a little... Maybe I should turn the music off so you can hear. Okay, this is definitely the best place to do this. Listen to my footsteps now. Can you hear how they are a lot faster than my actual footsteps? It's weird. It is weird. There's no getting around it. If I look at my feet and I do that, it's weird. I'm not going to do that very often, though. I'm really not. Let's face it. Ordinarily, if I glance down, probably going to be walking or just standing and looking at my stuff. And it's not too bad then. Perhaps if I was running along and I happen to glance at my shadow, I can hear the sound, and there is a disconnect there. There is a disconnect that is going to feel a bit weird, especially if you've got like sort of OCD problems with this sort of thing. And to be honest with you, I understand why you might. It is. The weird thing is when running backwards, the animation is the same. So the head bob's probably going to be the same problem. But running backwards, you don't do it very often. But like, here is the thing. I think if I was playing for myself, this would not even be an issue. I would stop noticing that in 10 seconds. But because it's a Let's Play, I become more acutely aware of things that are visual inconsistencies, glitches. And you know from experience, I tend to incorporate them into my Let's Plays. I can't help it. I sort of almost have this obsessive need to point them out. And I think people, when you watch a Let's Play, you're more critical of things like that than you are if you're playing yourself. It's almost like when you're watching someone else play, you demand more narrative consistency than when you play yourself. How often when you're playing do you do a quest in a way that makes no sense? Like you You wait for 5 weeks in a way that makes no sense. I mean, I know I do that sometimes in the Let's Plays, but when you do it in a Let's Play, it's so much more obvious that it makes no sense. And yet when you play for yourself, you just sort of smudge it in your brain. And I think this is one of those things. And I'm worried that I'm going to be noticing it and then getting this urge to, you know, like start humming the Bionic Man sound and music. And you guys are not going to know what the hell I'm talking about here, Bionic Man. There's going to be like 2 or 3 people in the chat who know what I'm talking about with the Bionic Man. Steve Austin, the $1 Million Man. $1 Million. Oh, that series did not age well with inflation, did it? No. But yeah, you get what I mean, or at least you will once you've Googled the Bionic Man. So it's not perfect. If you play with the 10% one or the 20% one, you actually look like you're on a slow-mo camera. When you're running along, you kind of... You look like you've got this animation, but it obviously it's 10 times slower than it's supposed to. It looks a bit ridiculous. I think the sweet spot seems to be about 60%. I think the bob is actually... It's not terrible. It's not terrible. And the disconnect between the animation... Oh, actually, when you're running backwards, there is no disconnect because it's not changed. The disconnect when running forwards between the animation and the speed moving and your footsteps, it's not perfect. And I must admit, I am beginning to feel it now, so maybe I'll need to actually drop it to 50% or even 40%. And that'll be more noticeable. But again, the question is going to be how many times will we see it? How many times will we notice it? Well, I've got 2 choices. I can either just say, bugger it, and play with the mod. Because I think I'd get through that. It wouldn't be perfect. It might, you know, drop the experience a few %. But it wouldn't destroy it, right? It wouldn't ruin it. I don't think it'd be too freaky. Or I could wait and see if they do an official patch. Maybe try and find out if one is in the works. Talk to some people who really know what's going on in the community, and maybe they can sort of say, nah, these guys are never going to do this. These guys love the head bob. They are team head bob. You're barking up the wrong tree. If anything, they're going to make the head bob larger. In which case, then, here's what I'm going to tell you. With this mod, I know I am going to do a Let's Play now. Whereas yesterday, I was really on the fence as to whether I was actually going to be able to do it. I think I'm definitely going to be able to do it now. I'm just tempted to wait to see if there's an official patch to get a perfect solution so we get less head bob, but we get animations and footsteps that match, and everything is brilliant. I mean, I am tempted to wait for that. But I can say now, with this mod, thanks to the mod author being pretty damned awesome and making so many different versions of it, I know I can play this. I'm 90% sure I can play this. And yeah, that's the question now. That's the question I need to ask myself. Do I want to wait for the official patch? Do I want to go with a mod? And I know there's going to be a bunch of feedback from you guys, and I will try and read it and see what you think. Should I play something else for now and then switch to this game in a few months if they patch? Or should I just go with it, start playing, have done with it? Anyway, I have definitely rambled more than I intended. Oh, God. I've rambled way more than I was going to. Way more. I really was determined to keep this to like 6 minutes. Like 15 minutes. Oh, I suck at this. Ramble number 3. Let's hope it is the last. Let's hope I don't do a George Lucas. Yeah, we're done. It's over. It's a classic. It's a classic series. Everyone will love it. The Bob Trilogy.